For enthusiasts and hardcore, PS5 exclusive titles are one of the main reasons to buy a console. Putting together a list of the best PS5 exclusive games is no easy task. However, I managed to put together the 20 best PS5 exclusives for you. Ghost of Tsushima was a superb final first-party game to grace the PS4, and the director's cut version that was released for PS5 released in 2021 is now one of the best PS5 exclusives available, offering an enhanced and visually upgraded experience, as well as one that will load quicker, has proper lip-syncing for Japanese, features haptic feedback, a higher potential frame rate, and some new cosmetics for Jean. It really is a superb repackaging that offers much more than just a light do-over. The biggest offering of the Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut is the Iki Island expansion. This is a brand new expansion, exclusive to the Director's Cut, which adds a whole new area to explore and soak up. Iki Island takes Jean to the place where his father died and offers an excellent and enhanced crystallized Ghost of Tsushima experience. There's some wonderful storytelling to be enjoyed, but also a map that begs to be explored, new enemies to fight, new camps to infiltrate, and quests to take on, as well as a host of Easter eggs to find. It's a relatively small but excellent and densely packed expansion that, when combined with the original full game and its own enhancements, makes the Director's Cut a fine PS5 exclusive game. A beautifully remastered version of one of 2018's best superhero games, Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered takes an already great game and makes it better. Thanks to 4K resolution, ray tracing support, and a buttery smooth 60 FPS, in performance mode, swinging around New York City as Spider-Man and beating up goons is more satisfying than ever. The frame rate boost is especially appreciated during fast-paced, high-intensity scenes, which, let's face it, make up about 90% of the game. Even if you've played the original game on PS4 already, be sure to pick up the remaster. It's free if you own the game on PS4, and give it another go. There was a bit of confusion as to what Marvel's Spider-Man, Miles Morales was when it was released alongside the PS5 in late 2020. Some erroneously believed that it was some kind of DLC expansion for Insomniac's 2018 title, but this is far from the case. It's a standalone game in every measurable way, and a pretty good one at that. Marvel's Spider-Man, Miles Morales takes players back to the streets of New York, where they'll once again be able to swing their way through the city's beautifully rendered skyscrapers with the push of a few buttons. It's a visually impressive game, for sure, but also one with a fantastic main story. The deluxe edition of the game also includes Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered, which may well be appealing to those who missed out on the original game. Taking over for Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales on this list, Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is an absolute belter of a PS5 exclusive. This entry in the main series builds on what came before and beautifully takes advantage of everything the PS5 can offer, from DualSense features to 3D audio. The game's Venom story arc throws in a few surprises along the way and is a hugely enjoyable adventure that puts fun at the forefront. From scouring the city for the many collectibles and puzzles to beating 7 shades of blue out of local ruffians, and from gliding your way through the skyscrapers and wind tunnels to exploring all the skills and tools available to Peter and Miles, the action is relentless and the amount of fun is nigh on endless. As a Sony first-party title, everything feels like your Spider-Man 2, from the audio cues on the controller, to solving puzzles with the adaptive triggers, and down to feeling the impact of every hit and blow. There's a host of accessibility features allowing more people than ever to enjoy being a Spider-Man, and the game is one of the best of the generation. A must-play PS5 exclusive. For well over a decade, JRPG fans begged Square Enix to remake Final Fantasy VII, which many consider to be one of the franchise's very best installments. The Japanese giant eventually caved in, with Final Fantasy VII Remake announced on the Sony stage back at E3 2015. However, the resulting game would not actually be a true remake as the title had seemed to suggest. Final Fantasy VII Remake is more of a reimagining of the original title, with certain events playing out very differently than they did in the 1997 classic. Not everybody was pleased with all of the changes that were made to the game's narrative, but few took issue with the gameplay or the graphics, both of which are every bit as well polished as fans had been hoping for. If you're looking for a charming and humorous PS5 exclusive from one of PlayStation's finest series, then Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is absolutely one to pick up. It's a breath of fresh air, doesn't take itself too seriously, and offers one of the finest experiences on PS5, taking advantage of almost everything. We wanted a bit more from the 3D audio when we reviewed it. It came with the current gen console. One of the best ways to experience what the game is all about is when you get to combine superb traversal with combat, chaining together attacks with weapons like those that can turn your enemies into shrubs while zooming onto a nearby speed boost is fluid, smooth, and satisfying. You'll learn to use different weapons and armor for different enemies as you go, while there's also plenty of opportunity to upgrade and alter them. Some weapons just get better through use, which is enormously satisfying. If you're a fan of the famous PlayStation duo and are up for a rip-roaring interdimensional adventure, then Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is one that'll serve up bombastic traversal, action, and a fun story to boot, all in one wholesome game. Despite director Kazunori Yamauchi's somewhat bizarre decision to opt for an always-online model and the game making use of some rather egregious monetization methods, Gran Turismo 7 is still a very good game. In fact, many see it as the best Gran Turismo game in more than a decade, and there are some very good reasons for that. For starters, the game looks fantastic on PS5, harnessing the console's improved processing capabilities to great effect. There's a fantastic selection of cars and tracks too, and a wide array of menu books to keep players busy while they're grinding for credits. Better still, the game now has full PSVR 2 support, allowing players to experience all of this in stunning virtual reality. Team Ninja's answer to the popular Dark Souls series is Nao, a punishing but satisfying action RPG based on Japanese history and folklore. The Nao Collection on PS5 brings the two titles together in one package. Fortunately, both games are excellent, fairly linear but featuring fast, deadly melee combat that has you swapping between stances to gain the upper hand. The pair of games are remastered for the up-to-date hardware, running at up to 120 frames per second on the right display, and support DualSense haptics and adaptive triggers. Two cracking action titles for the price of one, and looking and playing better than ever on PS5? A no-brainer! If you fancy taking a stroll through an empty, totally haunted version of the Japanese capital, then Ghostwire Tokyo is the PS5 exclusive for you. Although it is also available on PC, it's a PS5 console exclusive and really does look excellent on Sony's latest console. You play as the last human in a Tokyo where all the other living things, bar some adorable dogs, cats, and tanuki, have been whisked away to the spirit world. You'll need to rescue your sister and discover the stories of the spirits that still linger, trapped between worlds, all the while fending off all the horrific creatures that do roam the streets. It's creepy, atmospheric, and a fantastic world to exist in. If you like a challenge and are after one of the most original PS5 exclusive games, then Returnal could be just the ticket. It's a third-person action shooter that is intensely interesting and wondrous to play, from its aesthetic and environments to its weapons and intense combat, and from its slowly revealing story to its subtle but effective plays on your senses through 3D audio and the DualSense haptic feedback. Playing as Celine, a space pilot who has crashed her ship on the alien planet of Atropos. The key factor on Atropos that affects Celine as she tries to figure out what has happened, what is happening, and how to get off the planet is that it is stuck in a time loop. This is where the roguelike element comes in, as you'll be doing multiple runs through areas to collect lore, weapons, and upgrades that can be added to your armory in your efforts to break the time loop. While retracing steps repeatedly can be a chore in some games, Returnal keeps things very fresh by mixing up its environments and biomes with every run you do. Serving as the follow-up to the hit 2017 open-world game, Horizon Forbidden West doubles down on many mechanics while introducing new ones. For the most part, most of the changes are for the better, such as the inclusion of new tools and improved combat. Most notably, traversal underwent changes, allowing players to get around the map much easier thanks to the use of a new paraglider. And of course, the combat is gripping and satisfying, as is the design of the giant mechanical dinosaurs that roam the world. While this game won't break new ground, mostly all of its features are well executed, making it a must-buy. The Last of Us Part 1 on PS5 is the definitive way to play the still brilliant, emotive, and powerful game from Naughty Dog. The story and characters that we all know and love so well feel generationless in this enhanced remake, and now everything looks even better than ever. Ellie and Joel's hard-punching and hard-hitting post-apocalyptic journey still works and hit home after 10 years since its first release, and has really benefited from the visual and technical overhaul in Part 1. Every detail of the post-apocalyptic's world looks crisper and clear than ever, The atmosphere is as heavy as ever, and the crunch and heaviness of Joel's combat moves is more brutal than ever. Each encounter and set piece is just as powerful this time around, nay, perhaps even more so due to that extra weight and fluidity of the combat too. The latter is made even more smooth due to Part 1's multiple performance or quality modes on offer on PS5. Throw in the other PS5 benefits such as haptic feedback. Ellie's Bow has never felt so real. A host of accessibility options, enhanced audio, as well as the Left Behind DLC, and it's a brilliant PS5 exclusive experience. Set in the world of Valisthea, the people there once lived in peace thanks to the crystal mountains found there, known as the Mother Crystals. But that wasn't meant to last, as there's now a blight spreading across the world. The story will revolve around humans called Dominants, who are able to control icons, which are deadly and incredibly powerful creatures. Gameplay-wise, Final Fantasy XVI is an interesting and effective change in combat style, with a more action-orientated focus. Horizon Forbidden West and Ghost of Tsushima are similar in a lot of ways. Both games take place in a war-ravaged open world full of interesting characters and locations, but the latter just about has the edge on account of the natural beauty of its titular island and its main protagonist being infinitely more compelling and relatable. Ghost of Tsushima is an incredible game from start to finish and does a fantastic job of capturing the hardships of life in feudal Japan. Its director's cut brings with it a number of major improvements, including sharper visuals, faster loading times, and more targeting options during combat. Players also get access to the Iki Island DLC, which is well worth checking out for those who enjoyed the base version of the game. Known to spawn some of the best, most interesting, most rewarding, and most challenging games of all time, Demon's Souls got the meticulous and beautiful remake treatment from Bluepoint Games to be not only a superb PS5 exclusive but a brilliant PS5 launch game. Channeling all that made the original PS3 game a classic of its day, the PS5 exclusive remake enhances everything about it, from atmospheric locations and detailed environments, to updated graphics, near-immediate load times, and brilliant overall presentation. At its core though, this is still a tough-as-nails, tough but fair action-adventure game, where mastering your character's every move, roll, block, and strike is key to your survival and success. You'll navigate your way through a mysterious world with epic boss fights, souls and loot to be gathered to improve your chances, and some of the best medieval fantasy locales in gaming. The steep learning curve is, well, as steep as ever and won't be for some, but if you persevere and learn diligently how to take on the epic and spectacular boss fights, you'll be rewarded with fine loot, many souls, and euphoric satisfaction. Bluepoint is known for taking games and recrafting them for whole new generations, and the studio has absolutely done that again with this masterful remake of Demon's Souls. Death Stranding is definitely one of the more divisive console exclusives of the past decade or so, with many people writing the Hideo Kojima title off as little more than a walking simulator. However, as time has passed, more and more people have come to appreciate the brilliance of the Strand-type genre, which, among other things, prioritizes social connections over combat. To be clear, this is still one of those games that some people are going to hate, due largely to how much time is spent watching cutscenes and traversing a mostly barren open world. However, for those looking for a great story and an experience that is every bit as unique as one might expect from a Hideo Kojima game, Death Stranding may well be worth a look. God of War Ragnarok is everything we could have asked for from a sequel. Sure, following in the footsteps of 2018's God of War was no easy task, but Santa Monica Studio knocked it out of the park with Ragnarok. The sequel continues the thrilling story, offering a wide range of characters, fantastic combat, and a slew of improvements over its predecessor. In many ways, Ragnarok is much larger in terms of scope, expanding upon what made the 2018 game so great. If you like the 2018 game and want more, or if you're a fan of action games with gripping stories, you must play God of War Ragnarok. Destruction Allstars introduces itself as a new IP of multiplayer competitive racing. Don't picture it as regular races, however this is akin to the battle arenas of the Twisted Metal series or the collisions that you would see in a Burnout game, packed with a cast of 16 distinct characters. Perhaps its biggest twist comes when your car is destroyed. You will automatically enter a third-person view of your racer and move them around the map as if it was a different game. Its player base isn't as active as it was at launch, but if you can find a match in a timely manner, it can be a fun way to spend a couple hours with your PS5. The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered is a brilliant PS5 version of one of the very best PS4 games and represents the definitive way to play the sequel. The bleak story of Ellie and Abby unravels a dark tale of revenge, and the cycle of violence is every bit as absorbing and dramatic on the PS5. The PS5 enhancements over its predecessor helped to elevate the experience and action in Part 2 Remastered superbly. Feeling Abby's weapons kick through the DualSense or Ellie's bowstring tighten when pulled, along with feeling the weather effects drastically deepen the immersion into the game. The graphical boosts are most welcome too, with increased texture resolutions, 4K imagery, and a variety of performance modes to choose from, as well as the technical features. However, there's a bunch of extra content in Part 2 Remastered which helps set it as one of the best PS5 exclusives. There's a guitar free-play mode for budding musicians, a trio of lost levels that shows some parts cut from the game complete with commentary which expands to the full game too, offering deeper insights than ever before. However, the headline is the No Return mode, which builds a roguelike experience around the brutal combat of the game with randomized strings of encounters comprised of different modes culminating in epic boss battles. All in all, The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, despite being a remaster of a youngish game, is one of the best PS5 exclusives you can buy right now, and is well worth adding to your collection whether or not you've played the original. As its name suggests, Uncharted Legacy of Thieves Collection isn't a single game, but rather a set containing remastered versions of both Uncharted 4, A Thief's End, and Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. Both games were already incredible prior to being remastered, but the increased performance of the PS5 allows for a few notable improvements across the board. The most notable changes come in the graphics department, with players given much more control over things like frame rate and resolution. The remasters also make excellent use of the PS5's adaptive triggers, with players now able to feel the full weight of every shot that they fire. Given these improvements and the fact that Uncharted 4 was one of the best games on the PS4, the fact that its remaster is one of the best PS5 exclusives should perhaps come as no surprise. The follow-on to Final Fantasy VII Remake, Intergrade, is coming at some point towards the end of this year, delivering the second part of this epic Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy, as it now is. There are a lot of questions as to how Final Fantasy VII Rebirth will pick up the story after the events of the first section, and where exactly it'll leave off before whatever Part 3 delivers. So, did you like the games I recommended? So leave your like, subscribe to the channel to follow me, and activate the bell because I post a lot of videos on this channel and you can't miss it. I would like to remind you that in the description we have a list of different products that can make your gaming experience much better. If you want to buy, the link will be in the description. Anyway, thank you very much for following me this far, and until next time, bye.